Firefighters are still looking into the cause of the fire that destroyed this house here behind me. They did say that once they entered the home, they found a body in the back bedroom. They haven't identified the man yet, but they are working to do so in the coming days. David Rios' family and friends tell us he's still in critical condition here at MCV. His girlfriend tells us she's just thankful he's alive. We just spoke with David Rios here inside this Henrico jail. He says just 2 weeks after the incident, he is already a changed man. One thing experts recommend: leave a personal item in your back seat, like a phone, so you don't forget your kid in the hot car. We're here on 2nd Street. The Unite the Right protesters and counter-protesters have been pushed out of Emancipation Park. The National Guard has been called in as well. This courthouse has been serving the community for over 200 years, but it could be closing its doors as the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors considers a move outside the city. For Everson, the film is about more than just the election workers. It's also about creating visuals from a different perspective.
Deborah Davis lives on a quiet, tree-lined street on the north side. But those same trees, especially one in the front of her home, make her nervous. She's worried a storm could cause the tree to crash into the front of her home.
You know, I could be sitting there with my daughter and this tree falls on my home.
Deborah says she has reached out to the city many times for help trimming the tree, but she's often the one to clean up the mess.
Usually branches are falling, and a lot of times they're falling on my yard and my neighbor's yard, and we have to be the ones to clean it up because we'll call the city and they never come out.
Last summer, the city finally came to trim the tree, but left after only a few minutes because of an emergency. 8 months later, the city still hasn't come back. Deborah says she hasn't had any contact with the city since September, when she left several messages but didn't receive a response.
I'm constantly calling them back. I called them back again in September.
When it storms, Deborah is so afraid that this huge tree will crash through the front of her house that she often packs her bags and leaves her home.
I may leave and go and stay at either my son's or my sister's home instead of staying here because I'm afraid.
While Deborah could call a private contractor to trim the tree, she doesn't feel like she should have to since the tree is on city property.
This is something that they should constantly keep an eye on so that something like that won't happen. Suppose it falls on somebody. Suppose it falls on a child.
On Thursday, a Public Works spokesperson said a crew was sent to clean up the branches in Deborah's yard. They're expected to trim the tree next week. Ix Art Park has been the home to many artists and cultural events throughout the years. But after a 300% increase in property taxes, the park may be forced to close its doors. In 2016, the owners of the art park paid almost $11,000 in taxes. In 2017, that number is now just over $43,000. Susan Krischel works for Monticello Associates, who owns the park. She says that artists currently rent the space for a discounted amount, but that may have to change.
The owners were very generous in providing some support to the Ix Art Park to begin with, but now that taxes have increased so dramatically, it becomes much more difficult for us to provide the civic opportunity.
And it's not just the art park that could be hurt by the increase. The area is also home to other businesses, including Roger Friend's bike shop, Blue Wheel Bicycles.
I've seen some pretty astronomical numbers floated for how much the property taxes are going up, and if you were to pass on every penny of that to me, it would be a deal breaker for sure. I mean, we couldn't afford that.
Krischel says the increase in taxes has left the art park in a difficult position that could end up forcing them to change how the park is used.
Particular tenants there now cannot afford those kind of increases, so it would force us to basically bring in tenants who are not providing that civic good.
The request for a reappraisal of the space was denied in early August, which means the fate of this park hangs in the balance as the owners decide how to move forward. Reporting from Charlottesville, Hannah Hall, The Cavalier Daily. Watching scenes of the aftermath of the Florida shooting,
brought Delegate Skylar Van Valkenburg back to a false alarm at the school where he teaches in 2014.
I mean, the range of emotions that kids go through, you go through, it's a very, and that wasn't a real event.
Now, Democratic lawmakers in Richmond are questioning if there will be changes made. So far, Republicans have voted down every gun safety bill in committee.
I mean, I was disappointed. I wasn't surprised. I mean, this has become a very polarized issue, which is, I think, unfortunate. I think, there's a lot of places where we can find good ground,
Republicans say they have made Virginia schools safer in the past by making more funding available and hiring retired police officers to serve as security guards. Freshman Delegate John McGuire says it's too early to tell if policy could have prevented the tragedy in Florida.
Well, it seems like we're playing whack-a-mole. Every time there's a problem in society, we want to have a quick reaction. And that's why I say that we need to stand back and see what's going on.
While they disagree on how to solve the issue, Van Valkenburg and McGuire agree that it is too polarized.
Recently, as people are pushing back against that normalization, and they're saying, enough is enough.